So I guess the number in the Senate is now up to 12 who will object on Wednesday, January 6th, to the certification of the Electoral College. Forgive if you hear any noise in the background. I'm not in my usual spot, and it's not super quiet here, but this is all I could get away to do. I briefly mentioned this development of the greater number of senators objecting yesterday, although I didn't discuss it in detail, so I want to take a little more time to look into what exactly they were talking about and how it differs from Josh Hawley a couple days ago. Apparently this group is separate from Hawley's objection. Hawley just said he would object, but now Ted Cruz is coming out with a bunch of other senators, and they have some specific demands, I guess, that are tied to their objection. It's not shocking to me that you have, this number of senators coming out. This is kind of what I was expecting. It was, only really a matter of time. I guess Hawley was smart. He was able to get out in front of it and make his objection public before everyone else. And that's, the politically smart thing to do, although in 4 years, I don't know if anybody will really remember that Hawley came out a couple days before Cruz and the rest of these people. And so this is a positive development, because when the members now in the House and the Senate object on January the 6th, then the House and the Senate form separately to debate for 2 hours the objections. You're going to have multiple senators, not just Josh Hawley himself, making the case, which will be good. Ted Cruz, of course, was the Solicitor General of Texas or whatever, so he's a pretty experienced litigator. And so, Hawley, Cruz, and the other senators will be able to make that case on the floor of the Senate. Same is true in the House. You've got, 140 congressmen now. And so there's strength in numbers. The more people you have making this case, even if, they're all making an equally good case, it's still more valuable than having one guy making a good case. Now, again, I don't expect this to actually be successful, but it's important to fight this all the way to the end to make sure that it's clear that there is a substantial contingent of Americans who do not accept these results. That needs to be on record in Congress, in the public debate sphere, and everywhere. People need to speak out about this expressly to undermine the presidency of Joe Biden and to give him as little, moral superiority or legitimacy as possible. Now, in addition to just objecting, Cruz and these 12 senators are essentially demanding an 1876-style election commission, which is what happened after the 1876 election, which was stolen by the Republicans. They created this, because it was so obvious, they created this election commission to try and sort out all the problems with the election. It was made up of 5 congressmen, 5 senators, and 5 Supreme Court justices. And ultimately, they decided on, the compromise of 1877, which was the Republican who stole the election gets to be president, but he has to give concessions to the Democrats, namely the end of Reconstruction. And so it was supposedly a win-win for everybody. That was, what the commission tried to accomplish. Now, I doubt that this commission will actually come to fruition, but it is interesting that Cruz is proposing it. This is probably the most radical proposition yet, more so than just objecting to the electors under the Electoral Count Act. This is going back to something, that existed before the Electoral Count Act. The Electoral Count Act was passed in the wake of 1876, trying to prevent the need for a commission like that from, arising. And so Cruz calling for that commission to be, brought forth once again and created is a sign of rebellion against the Electoral Count Act itself. And so what would be the duties of this commission? Well, what Cruz is asking for is that the commission performs a 10-day audit of the election to go over all the claims of fraud and whatnot. And this might be, if it actually came into existence, which I don't think it will, it might actually be a way of covering things up, which is what, congressional committees and things have a tendency to do, like the 9/11 Commission, that had a great way of trying to cover up for Saudi Arabia. as well as Pakistan and whoever else. I mean, we'll never know exactly what happened on 9/11 because the 9/11 Commission made it their duty to just try and reinforce whatever the official narrative was, rather than perform an honest investigation and actually figure out what the truth was. This electoral commission may very well, if it is created, which I don't think it will, it could lead to the same sort of thing. Now, in his bill, his omnibus bill, or stimulus bill, whatever it was, McConnell had slipped in a provision of an election fraud commission to look into the allegations of election fraud, and I can guarantee you that that one would just cover everything up. But my guess is that Cruz knows that his commission that he wants will not be created, and that what he's doing by suggesting this is just drawing more parallels between 2020 and 1876 to again make sure that 2020 is one of those elections with an asterisk next to it, even more of an asterisk than 1960. Because, of course, back in 1960, Nixon pretty much went quietly into the night. And so what really is the overall spirit of Cruz's effort here? From what I can see, it seems to be a delaying tactic. One which I'm not sure how successful it will be, but I think it's going to be something that will sound very reasonable to a lot of Americans. That is that, hey, we're rushing here to certify this election, these electoral college results. There's a lot of claims that they're going to bring up in their hearing that is that have not been properly investigated. They're going to say, hey, we need to just take a pause here. We need to look into all this stuff, make sure that all of it is, everything is above board, and then, we come back and certify the election results. Again, does this have a chance of happening? I don't think so, but it's important that there are politicians who are acting in the interests of their voters. Their voters most certainly want them to do this, especially in the states that I've seen. I mean, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas. I mean, these are the states of these senators, and Missouri. These are all big, very Trumpy states. Those senators have a duty, I think, to act in the interest of their voters. And if their voters were there in Washington, they would be contesting these results and trying to put up a fight. And so a lot of the swamp creatures will get mad at these guys and say, oh, you're just grandstanding, you can't win, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't do that. And that's just not fair. It's not quite the same as grandstanding, whereas, if they didn't do this, even though they're doomed to fail, it would be, a betrayal to their voters. It would be a dereliction of duty. And so it doesn't matter whether you absolutely can win or not. That's the nature of any kind of fight. Is you win some, you lose some. But if your voters want you to fight and you just stand down, that's a betrayal. So with that said, if you gain anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.